Yes, festival season is here in full swing. Festival cheer all around. So tonight, along with the festival cheer, we bring a word of caution. And I really don't have to say much. I just have to show you the kind of visuals that we're getting from across the country. As the festive season begins, the COVID concerns are growing again. People can be seen thronging the Durga puja pandals across Bengal. Devotees have thronged temples and religious places in Vijayawada. Some instances that show why the concern is growing during festivals. Just look at the visuals. Massive crowd at the puja pandals. People on shopping spree across markets, across cities this festival season. In fact, even large-scale Garba events being held, politicians part of this, complete flouting of norms really taking place. In many states, temples have reopened. Devotees have begun to throng the premises of the temples as well. In the states where it hasn't, there is a big debate going on as to why should there still be restrictions on temples where everything else has opened up. Not just this, there's so many other relaxations that are coming in. The biggest one being the latest, allowing airlines to operate at 100% capacity starting October 18th. And why is that happening? Because that's the level of travel people are undertaking. That's the level of number of passengers, the crowd that we are actually seeing at various airports as people make their travel plans this holiday season. So you'll see that even the operated capacity from 50%, which was allowed in June and July, it was then increased to 65%, 72.5%, and now it's completely being no restrictions, no holds barred in an aircraft and crowding at the airports as well. Not the only place, markets, malls, restaurants, places of worship, pandals, everywhere, that is what the scene is. But while the numbers for the nation don't show you the figures and the kind of concern we saw when the second wave was peaking, that's because we are not in the middle of a wave right now. But the numbers have begun to show some change. I'll give you an example. A recent study showed that the R value, which is the rate of infection, how quickly the infection travels, which has been a benchmark this pandemic era, in 3 metro cities, that R value has gone up. Kolkata being on top of that list, and hence the concerns are even bigger with the kind of celebrations that are going on in the city of Kolkata. Bengaluru, the other big city where the R value has crossed 1, which means the infection is spreading more than what it was earlier. Mumbai, where again everything has been largely opened up. The next set will be the cinemas as well that open up in a few days. The R value is above 1. Delhi is almost there. It's at 0.95 as of the last study that emerged last week. In all of this, there is this whole political fight, political football taking place over people's religious sentiments and their views, with the Chhath puja becoming a flashpoint between the Delhi government and the centre, the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP, both of them blaming the other side for not allowing people to hold Chhath puja the way they would want to. At some point, I'm sure, before the festival comes, the restriction and the ban would be raised. For now, it's still there. But as that debate continues, and I am not really interested in the politics of it, there is a larger point at the heart of this debate. And the larger point is that as we open up, as we see the large number of vaccinations that are taking place, the low number of infections that are being reported, and we lift more and more of the restrictions, are government still doing enough to implement the SOPs? Are government still doing enough to enforce the basics of COVID rules? Because if we don't do that, and if we don't remind people, and if we let this happen over a long period of time, that certainly cannot be great news for us. Let's say good evening to those who are joining us. Over the next 1 hour, various representatives from various fields and states will be speaking to me on this special conversation. To begin with, Dr. Sunila Garg, Professor of Excellence Community Medicine at Maulana Azad Medical College, member of the Lancet Commission and the COVID task force joins me this evening. Dr. Sanjukta Datta, emergency head at Fortis in Kolkata. Mr. V.N. Rai, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, also joining me this evening. Thank you to all of you for being with me this evening. Dr. Garg, let's start off with you. We've had repeated conversations as to what should be the extent of opening, reopening. Of course, while the decision is largely left to states and the local administrations, what we are seeing actually is uniformity in the kind of crowds that are visible across the board. Your view when you see these crowds?
First of all, thank you, Tanvi, for having me on the show. And secondly, a big thank you for raising this issue, which is a very, very important issue. And as you brought it very, very correctly, that particularly when we are talking of 3 cities and which belong to 3 states, if I was to talk of West Bengal or I was to talk of Karnataka or, I was to talk of Maharashtra, all these states are having roughly around 74% vaccination. So we need to look at that these states are not even fully vaccinated and not even, majority of the people have not even received, one round of vaccination also. So that is one thing. Number two is that when we are looking at, from the perspective of overcrowding, though the government had issued guidelines on 7th of October that, you must have virtual pujas, and you must, not have overcrowding and all that. But the fact is that, you see, the administration or the district authorities have to be very, very strict. We cannot just have, just simply talking, but it has to be implemented, you see, in real spirit also, because, after all, people have been at home since last almost 1.5 years. So, I think, it has to come together from the persons and it has to come together from the administration. Because if I'll still say that Kerala also, if we look at the example, the test positivity is still about 11.1%. That is important part too. We have got almost, 5 states which have got test positivity of more than 5%. So that is another important thing to be noticed. So if and you brought a very important point that we are having R0, closer and above 1, and Delhi is inching closer to that. So there is no point in having a debate between the political leaders as well as, with regard to the administration regarding particular puja and all that, or particular festival. It is very, very important to note that once we are safe, we will be able to enjoy the festivals. The point to be noted is that we still have 16,000 cases as of yesterday, and Kerala accounted for about 6,000 cases. And also, the virus has not gone out of our lives. We have got only 20% people who are fully vaccinated or received 2 doses of vaccination, and approximately about 45% people who have received 1 dose of vaccination. And this is another important point to be noted. On top of it, if we are enjoying festivals, we are, the kind of scenarios which you have shown are really horrifying. And then on top of it, there are few things, which the government needs to take into consideration. Though, there may be a demand for travel, there may be demand for opening because from the economic perspective. But you see, we have to weigh the 2 things, between the pandemic and between the economy. So at this point of time, economy, is also important, but that has to take a slightly backseat as compared to the people's life. Because if we are dealing with, the lives, and this kind of scenario cannot be tolerated at any time.
Okay, so you're saying this cannot be tolerated, this kind of a scenario. And of course, the very important statistics that you also highlighted is that in the minds of people, what is happening, Dr. Datta, is that people believe, oh, we've got the vaccine. So it's okay for us to step out. It's okay for us to socialize. It's okay for us to get into crowded places, visit markets, visit pandals, whatever it be, because they believe we and our family has been vaccinated. But statistics show that only 24% of this country is fully vaccinated. And that's something I believe, Dr. Datta, people need to be reminded of. What is your reaction when you see the kind of festival cheer in Kolkata this season?
To be very frank, I am scared. I joined this. I am scared because I had an emergency department in this metro city in Kolkata, and this was horrible. I am telling you, the COVID second wave, which we have handled, that was not just physically, but it was mentally draining for us. People were coming with shortness of breath, low saturation. People were dying in the ambulances because the oxygen ran out. The people were dying in the Uber, the taxis. I was giving oxygen on wheelchairs, on chairs. Sometimes even in the Uber with a long tube I got from bronchoscopy, I was giving oxygen to them, and I was not being able to admit or treat everybody because we were running off beds, running out of resources. And trust me, couple of days back, or I would say couple of weeks back, there was really very minimal COVID patients we were getting. But on today's date, we are getting COVID patients regularly. Though it is not a big number yet, but we are getting it regularly. That means it is not out of our system and it is increasing. So that is really very scary. And I believe everybody should remember that COVID is there and COVID is deadly. And to tell you what you were talking about the vaccines definitely are there. They reduce your chance of death, but it cannot say that you will not have COVID, you will not deteriorate or go to ICU with COVID, or you will not die. I have seen people getting admitted in ICUs after full vaccination, and people are actually dying even after 2 vaccines. It reduces the chances, but the people can die. One more thing is the kids. The kids are not yet vaccinated. So I believe you all take care of, care of your kids who are there at home below 18. So basically, they are coming. They are coming not just with the COVID symptoms, but post-COVID complications. Maybe they had asymptomatic COVID and later on they are coming with multi-system dysfunctions and people are dying. Maybe sometimes it is not stamped as COVID because during COVID, within 7 to 10 days, the positivity rate, 4 to 10 days, the positivity rate is high. But after that, you are no longer positive by COVID RT-PCR test or any other tests. But still, the kids are coming with the post-COVID symptoms, their antibody is positive, and the kids are dying. So I really feel this is the first time in my life I got so scared after doing emergency medicine for so many years. So please be cautious.
Dr.
Don't
Datta,
think
let me
that you
ask
are
you
safe.
this, and you've raised a very valid point, and I understand where you're coming from. But in your interactions with those who are, getting infected now, is there and I'm not blaming anybody. I think all of us have gone through the syndrome where we are just fed up of the kind of restrictions we've seen in 18 months. But 6 months ago, people believed that having gone the nightmare of a second wave, nobody would want to risk it. Have many people forgotten that now, or has their views changed because they've got a vaccine?
I think people think that COVID has gone down, so it is not affecting us anymore, and we are vaccinated, so definitely we are safer. We have seen the second wave, so maybe the third wave will not be so deadly, but that's not true. And one more thing I would like to highlight is in the first wave, we were not sure what can prevent, how to get rid of this, how I can stop getting this. So we were wearing all these PPEs, all those stuffs. But now, what I understood by this, only a good mask, a good N95 mask can save you. If you do not get an N95, get a proper, 3-layered cotton mask. That will also do. That is the best thing you can do to prevent COVID. Nowadays, we are seeing patients only with a mask. We are not even wearing PPE all the time, but that is saving us. So wearing a mask is not so difficult. And I don't say that you need to maintain the distance of 6 feet now because that is not possible when you are going in a festive mood. But please make sure that mask is there when you are around people. So that much you can do. I am seeing people, they are saying, I am wearing mask all the time. Only when I was having food, I just took the mask off. But that actually is of no use. So
Yes.
I think please wear a mask at least and avoid the the crowded places.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And that is often the excuse you get when you remind somebody to wear their mask, saying, oh, we were just eating right now, or we just put it down just for this minute. Mr. V. N. Rai, the other aspect of this is, of course, as we open up places, there will also need to be some amount of enforcement and regulation. It's a very difficult task, that I will admit, but somebody has to do it. Now, how do we ensure that the enforcement of these norms take place?
One of the panelists has very rightly said that COVID is still there. COVID is not out of our system. Only thing, the unfortunate part is that police is never part of the decision making. So there may be big festival, say melas, there may be Durga puja, there may be Kumbh, might be elections. Police is not taken into confidence while taking decisions about relaxing the restrictions. But police has to do its duty. I think it is a very difficult task, but some fine tuning, some fine balancing has to be done. And you can't stop the lives of the people. Then you will have to remind them that it is risky to say waive off all the restrictions. So it is a difficult task, but somehow police is doing, and I personally feel that they are doing well.
Yes, it's an extremely difficult task, right? Especially when it comes to festival season, festival mode, where you can't really, use the danda. Let's just say danda nahi use kar sakte, or at least most police forces are hesitant to. There is also an understanding that you don't want to, take on people during festival times or religious things. But that's where it becomes difficult, Mr. Rai, because in markets, in restaurants, you can still at some point regulate it. In malls, inside a flight, there is regulation. A flight attendant will always ensure nobody is standing, everybody has their mask on. But that's very difficult when it comes to any religious celebration. So, should there be a different standard there? Do you believe, as a police officer, that there needs to be different set of rules for such gatherings?
I think police should be more sensitized. They should be more sensitive, and they should realize that after all, these people who are involved in the festivities, they are our people. And you cannot enforce anything by danda. Danda is simply ruled out. You have to request them, you have to request them with folded hands. People themselves should have to educate themselves. And somehow, no thumb rule could be applied. It is one must say that it is with both public and the police, their cooperation and their understanding of the situation, the gravity of the situation, that certain restrictions could be enforced.
I saw some of these visuals, Dr. Sunila Garg, and when we were, planning and to have this conversation, and genuinely I had a moment where I couldn't figure out if the visual I'm looking at is from today or from 2 years ago, because nobody seems to be wearing a mask. Now, is the onus on people, or can we actually expect the governments to have a tougher stand on it, to say, warn them, shut places down, fine people hefty fines, something to ensure that the mask stays on?
You can't...
Mr. Rai, let me just take that question to Dr. Garg. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Tanvi, this is a very, very important point what you have raised. Though, public responsibility is uppermost, but then you see if public is not following, and we can see that, nobody actually is wearing the mask, which is a very, very important social vaccine. When we had no vaccine, mask protected us. And as has been pointed out by Dr. Datta also, that primarily we need to see that people who are coming to, places of worship, or coming to pandals, or, who are traveling also, they should be wearing masks. But if we cannot control them, then the fines are the answer. So definitely, I think, ultimately when R0 is going to go so high, our systems are going to be again surged with the cases. So then again, we are going to go back to square one. So the gains what we have made so far, that will be, kind of, there will be rolling back of those gains also. So we have to be very, very particular that people, have to be time and again warned about the consequences of this overcrowding, not following COVID appropriate behavior. So the festivities are at one place, and we should be able to regulate the crowd. That is important part of administration also, as Mr. Rai was also telling. But I perfectly agree, agree with him that some kind of strictness definitely is allowed, and we may have 50% of people, who are allowed at one point of time. So we should not be actually, we have to follow some kind of strictness. Again, I say that, the virus is amongst us. It has not gone out of our lives. So if we are not safe, if our country is not safe, if our neighborhood is not safe, we are not safe.
But there is also, Dr. Datta, a lot of whataboutery that happens when you try and have this conversation with anybody. Because if you say, oh, why are you allowing this to open up? They say, but you allowed that to open up. You allowed, if you question on a certain rule and regulation on one festival, then somebody points out, oh, two other festivals. If you ask about markets, then they point out schools. Schools are reopening now. Do you believe that there needs to be different sets of rules for different places? I mean, for example, schools obviously need a different kind of a benchmarking, because it's so difficult to ensure that children wear masks and children are not even vaccinated right now. So that's a completely different scenario. But the same children are also pandal hopping today, Dr. Datta.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I believe the rules are definitely required, and sometimes a small amount of fine, I think that works. And while the people are hopping around, they are going to pandals, I believe they are not understanding that people with COVID are around. The problem with this COVID, I would say, is you may not know that this patient is having the disease. This person is spreading the infection because the people are not all symptomatic. And probably after vaccination, even if you were infected, you may not show that much of symptoms. So that is also a work of vaccine, that even if you get the disease, it will not be severe. But again, you will definitely give it to others. You are infectious and you will give it to others. So when the people are around other people, they are asymptomatic. So the idea is this person is definitely clean and this person is safe, but that is not. So everybody needs to understand what actually is happening. Even if the kid gets it, the kid will spread it to others. This is the most problematic part of COVID, that the symptoms are not same, the signs are not same, the severity is not same in every person. But each and every person can spread this disease. So we need to be really, really cautious.
Let me also highlight one other aspect with Dr. Sunil Agar. Dr. Gar, you mentioned it in your first opening remark, which is about the breakthrough infections that we're seeing in Kerala. If we can elaborate a little bit more on it. The study shows that 25% of the cases were breakthrough infections, meaning people who already had the antibodies still got infected.
Definitely, this is one of the important things which we have also completed one study recently, and we will be releasing it very soon. That people, who have received 2 doses of vaccination, and after 14 days of that, they are also getting infection. The infection protects them from, basically the infection is there. It may protect them from hospitalization. It may prevent them from death because they are vaccinated, but then they can transmit the infections to others as well. And here comes the importance of following COVID appropriate behavior post vaccination also. That is one of the most important things. So one should keep in mind that after 2 doses of vaccine also, we are seeing large cases of, breakthrough infection. So breakthrough means it is the infection which is breaking through the whole pathway immunization, which you have achieved through, 2 doses of vaccine. You may be having some antibodies as well, but then again, it could be because of different strain of virus also, because now we are getting majority of the cases are of different strains. So that is where we have got, 25% is a large chunk, and this may also be underestimate. We are looking at only those cases which are reporting to us, but then, other individuals who are not reporting to us, staying at home, suffering from milder infection, that is another important part. So I think that if we will go by real estimates, the estimates will be even much more higher than, about 35 to 40%.
It's a very important point to highlight here because people need to have this understanding when they step out. Mr. Rai, we see that in the attitude of everybody around us, believing that since they have got the vaccine, they won't get the infection. In fact, in many cases where such an infection takes place, I often hear, extreme shock कि अरे वैक्सीन लगाने के बाद भी हो गया, ये कैसे?
You are right. This is a complacency which I feel that doctors can better explain. As a police officer, as a policeman, I can only say that we will have to deal in a very civilized manner, in a very sensitized manner, and we will have to realize that these are all religious people, deeply religious people, and they are coming for their functions, their rituals. So we will have to accommodate them. Only thing is that how to segregate them, how to educate them to keep some distance, to put on their mask. That is a big challenge, but I personally feel that police officers or policemen should not be expected to teach people these things. They are social scientists, they are psychologists, political leadership.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Rai, if you had to give an instruction to your force today, it's a very tricky one. Very difficult to teach people anything if they haven't learned it in 18 months, that you need to wear a mask. Also tricky to, show a hard stand, but sometimes that tough stand is needed, that penalizing people is needed to send across a message. What would your message be then?
But this penalizing in a big congregation is not an option. I can simply remind my experiences when I was SSP of the Allahabad Kumbh Mela. And Allahabad Kumbh Mela gets more than 2 crore people at one time. So penalizing is no option. Only thing is with patience, with careful handling, with the sensitive handling, you can teach people, you can, at times when you feel that somebody is deliberately avoiding, say, legal advices or medical advices, then some coercive action is needed. But mostly coercive action is ruled out. Personally, I feel that you cannot adopt to the coercive methods.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your views. Of course, I feel that the messaging also needs to come from the top. Dr. Garg, you wanted to make a point. If the government say that we need to take a tough stand, then perhaps it makes the job of the cop on ground also easy. Of course, when there are hundreds and thousands of people together, then it's a different challenge altogether.
And also, I feel that particularly it is very, very important that as part of the responsibility, whether they are religious places, whether they are puja pandals and all, regular announcements must go on about the COVID appropriate behavior, that people will not be allowed inside the temples or inside the pandals or inside any other places of worship, basically, that, because of still the fear of COVID is there. We have not, got over with the second wave. Third wave may loom, that is important. Right now, we were telling that we are compromised between seropositivity and also the rates of vaccination. But if we have this kind of situation, because ultimately, you really pointed out with 3 figures, in 3 states, that means R naught is going up, and people should realize that if this is only the beginning of puja, or beginning of festivities, so there is some amount of public responsibility. And I'd like to request Mr. Rai also that, through the police channels, through the district, authorities, if, we can make the people responsible, that regular announcements have to go on. After all, the people who are coming, quite a number of them, they are from other states also. Delhi has got a lot of migrants. Similarly, major metros have got a lot of migrants. They do not understand, because if you go to the state of Bihar or you go to the state of remotes of Uttar Pradesh and all, people are just roaming like that. Otherwise also, they're not wearing masks. They're not, following COVID appropriate behavior. So it is important that, these kind of people are also coming for the places of worship, because we have a lot of migrants. They do not understand the reality of the gravity of the whole situation. So it is very, very important to make them understand. And this is the right platform to say that, please come, in limited numbers, do the regular, kind of awareness programs through these, pandals and all that. So that will be one of the important things also, and it will give a correct messaging to people as well.
Okay, you have made a very, valuable point. And I'm going to take that point and now go across to Mr. Harish Khurana of the BJP, Ravi Srivastava also joining me right now. Mr. Harish Khurana, politics aside, where any political party would want to be seen as caring for the sentiments of the majority or the religious sentiments of the majority, shouldn't the focus actually be to remind people that COVID is still here? The R0 infection rate of Delhi is almost at 1 already.
See, Tanvi, the thing is there should not a pick and choose policy should not be there. If you are banning the things due to COVID, you should ban everything now. Who is stopping you? On one hand, you open all the markets. On second hand, you open every festival. But why only you are banning Chhath Puja? My point is only one. We don't want to do politics. But who has started? You are opening theaters. You are opening as many things. What you want to do it. You're doing it. You're most welcome. But why are you only choosing Chhath Puja to ban? My point is only this. Ban karna sabko karo, nahi karna to mat karo.
Because scientifically speaking, large crowds, hundreds and thousands of people together, especially without masks, dipping in waters is very different from flights or multiplexes where those air conditioning systems have a way of purifying the air. The multiplexes are supposed to ensure that level of purification is there. The two are not comparable. So, logically speaking, sending children to schools in an environment where cases are low is much more important for their education than to hold a large-sized religious congregation. So, I am just saying, in order of priorities, where do the priorities of politicians lie?
Tanvi, what about Ram Leela? What about Ram Leela? You have started Ram Leela. Is the crowd is not coming over there? My point is only this: if you have started the things and things should now started moving on, you should take care of the COVID norms. I am not saying open it and everybody can go over there. Arey Baba, you are allowing some people, but restrict the numbers, na? Like you have did in Ram Leela. If you restricted all those things in Ram Leela or any other public places, why only you are banning Chhath Puja? My whole point is this. If you want to ban
my whole point is,
now.
I'm still confused, Ravi Srivastava. Who banned Chhath Puja to begin with in the national capital? I'm still very confused. Even after the new law that came in that gave a lot of powers to the LG, and technically this order was issued by the DDMA, I'm still very confused.
Tanvi, it appears that Mr. Khurana is, I don't know for what he is agitated. As far as Delhi Aam Aadmi Party government is concerned, they are very much, concerned about the sentiments of the people, the astha of the people, and accordingly, Mr. Manish Sisodia has written a letter which is in the public domain to the Minister of Health and asked for the particular guidance for this particular event as well. And whatever has been opened, it has opened with the permission of the DDMA. And that head for the DDMA is the LG. And the LG who is appointed by the Bharatiya Janata Party government only. So if Mr. Khurana is agitated, he should better agitate before the LG's office, or he should agitate before the health minister, because Aam Aadmi Party government or Kejriwal will exactly do whatever DDMA approves, because we are concerned about the health of people. But I don't know why they are communalizing the whole issue.
Yes, but Ravi, I'm also confused. If we are concerned about the health of the people, then why are we even batting to lift such a ban? If we are concerned about the health of the people and not the religious sentiments of the people and hence our votes, why are we even batting for this now? I am very confused with what the Aam Aadmi Party government wants.
See, Tanvi, every festival can be celebrated with the proper guidelines. Even I saw
there is no example of that has happened in our country.
Where people are observing the safe distance, they are wearing the mask, and they are appearing in the pandals. They are going and investing over there. So same thing can happen here also. That is what
Le-
Mr. Sisodia has asked for. And you give us the proper guidance.
No.
We'll abide by that, and we will celebrate the festival.
I hope
Nobody
so.
can
I
take
hope
us.
so. But Ravi Sharvastav and to Harish Khurana, that's exactly the conversation we are having today, because we've got visuals from every corner of this country where festivals are being observed, whether it's events that are being held for Garba, whether it's pandals where there is Durga puja, whether it's any other kind of Dasera celebrations, Ram Leela, whether what we saw in Kerala during Onam. Nobody follows regulations. That's just a farce. Regulations only remain on paper. That's simply the farce that has come through. Let me bring in one more expert and ask him also this question. Dr. Ravi Malik, good evening to you, CMD of the Radix Hospital. Dr. Malik, it's not easy for anybody, any government, any authority, any law enforcement agency to impose these norms. But are we really at a place where we can say, time to reset, let's open it all up and let everybody out without a mask on?
Tanvi, it is the time to shake up our conscience. As a political professional, I will like to tell you that we are, if not in the mid of the second wave, we are at the tail of the second wave. The second wave has not gone. And if we don't take due precautions, then probably in future, the COVID is going to haunt us. So it is extremely important for us to understand that no kind of social spreader event can be afforded by our community under the backdrop of fact that our herd immunity is yet not appropriate, our children are not vaccinated, and the risk of third wave is also looming around our head, and our health infrastructure and economy is also developing. It is not that strong as compared to the developed nation. So under the backdrop of all these facts, we need to be extra cautious and we should be taking all the precautions. Let us insulate this issue of whether it is Navratri, or it is Diwali, or it is Chhath Puja. Let us insulate the issue. Let us try to focus on the thing that any kind of social spreader event should be avoided, or the people should restrict themselves, restrain themselves for their bright future or to save the life of their children. So it is extremely important for all of us to understand that second wave has yet not gone. So it is very important, and the numbers might escalate. As a professional, I must warn you, even today the COVID has not come to 15,000, 18,000, 20,000 cases are happening every day. So we need to follow the social discipline. We need to follow the COVID appropriate behavior, and we need to follow the algorithm of all the precautions which are being prescribed for the COVID precaution. So it is extremely important, and let us put it very firmly. Let me bulldoze my medical opinion on people that we need to be extremely cautious, especially during this festive season.
And Dr. Malik, since you've pointed this fact out, there are certain things that perhaps beyond the point are not, cannot be pushed or delayed anymore. I mean, at some point, children have to get back to school. So it's been the biggest collateral damage of this pandemic, the way education has suffered. At some point, some of the economic activities, some of the shops do need to open. Some people do need to earn a livelihood and get to work. And if we had to choose in priorities, wouldn't you say that large-scale festival gatherings and religious congregations should just be the last?
Look, Tanvi, there is a difference between the large-scale gathering of religious functions and children going with certain protocol to the schools, or people going with certain protocols to the cinema hall. If 15 people are sitting in a classroom with social distancing and all the precautions, it means it speaks volumes about the precaution rather than a rampant collection of the herd on the religious functions. So these two things are absolutely separate. We must also understand that after 1.5 years of lockdown in the schools, children are losing on certain other aspects. Suddenly they need to have leadership skills. They need to have peer group interactions. They are getting depressed. They cannot, according to American Academy of Pediatrics, screen time should not be more than 2 hours. and they are spending almost 8 hours on the screen. So we have to weigh both the things, and let us not forget that huge political, social, or religious gatherings, it is a totally different scenario as compared to opening of the schools with proper protocol and under the monitoring of the principal or the teachers and the parents and everybody. That is a separate issue. Moreover, we cannot afford to lose on the psychology. As a pediatrician, I can tell you, children are getting sick. They are getting more obese. They are getting, because of lack of activities and other things, they are getting depressed for that matter. They are having visual impairments because they are spending so much of time on the screen. So we need to be extremely careful. And if with certain protocols the government has decided to reopen the schools, I welcome that idea. But under no circumstances, huge gatherings of the religious functions which are absolutely unmonitored should be avoided, and they should be restricted. May it be any religion, or may it be any political party, or may it be any social function.
Yes. And any. So, doctor, the point that you made, I'm going to take it, and I'm not dragging you in a political fight, but I am asking experts today, and we've got multiple experts, joining us over this 1 hour to make this point. And let me now get Harish Khurana to respond to it. Mr. Khurana, then why don't all political parties just stand up and say, okay, now is still not the time for large-scale religious congregations, all religions. Let's just stop it all. We've done so well to get here. The horrors of second wave is still fresh in our minds. Why do we want to take ourselves back to that point again?
See, nobody wants to go into that phase again. The only thing is the government has to come up with a plan, and we are ready to support them. Let the government take out the plan now. If you want to ban all activities, including any puja, including any Ramlila, including any government, any public functions, we are ready to support them now. But there should not be a pick and choose policy. My only point is this: personally speaking, I'm not in favor, because nobody, yes, you are right, nobody is taking care of a mask, nobody taking care of social distancing, nobody is taking care of. So at the end of the day, government should impose some restrictions on this. Government should do it, but let the plan comes out from the government side, na.
No, but help me understand this then. Everybody is saying that yes, we care about the health of the people. That is our priority. But what I see is two political parties fighting over lifting the ban and pointing fingers at the other side for imposing the ban. Who's imposing this ban? DDMA that comes under Lieutenant Governor, or the Delhi government that came out and backed it initially, or the Delhi government is now writing to the centre saying please lift the ban, and Manoj Tiwari is saying no, it's the Delhi government who has to lift the ban. I mean, this is an upside down weird way of playing politics when both of you should actually be fighting to keep the ban, not lift it.
Tanvi, we are not opposing anything. What we are saying there should not be a pick and choose policy. Raviji was saying
no, Mr. Khurana, that's what you're saying. That's not what politicians from your party are saying. In fact, the wordings and the language that have been used by some of the leaders, I don't even want to, because it sounds so communal. And it's about the astha of the majority of this country and that city that is being pushed forward. Both the political parties are trying to appease the same majority community, not trying to consider the health of the people. Please, let's just be very honest about it tonight.
Tanvi, when I speak, you know me, I speak honestly. Ravi ji was saying in an LG meeting, the LG has to lift the ban. Arvind Kejriwal was the one who opposes in that particular meeting about the lifting of the ban on Chhath Puja. Our opposition, what we were opposing it, if you want to oppose the ban, lifting of the ban, oppose it fully now. Why only pick and choose? My only thing is this. My only argument is this. Don't do pick and choose. If you want to ban Eid also, ban Diwali also, ban Dashera also, then we should understand. On one hand, you are lifting You are allowing Eid also. You are allowing any other puja also. But why you are putting a ban on Chhath puja? My only point is this.
Okay. I'm going to now thank Ravi Srivastava and Harish Khurana for joining me. But here is what I want to leave with the political representatives and the political parties to think about for the national capital as they fight it out and fight for the credit for wanting to lift the ban, not for imposing more stops. The average vaccination rate in the national capital has come down by 34% since October 1st. The average vaccination rate, every day the number of vaccines that are being given has come down 34% just in this month. And one would think that this is happening because, majority of the people have been vaccinated, but no, they have not. In Delhi, only a third of the people are fully vaccinated. Only 33% of the people are fully vaccinated. The majority doesn't have both shots right now. Haven't got both shots. Even if you say one shot, even that is just 63%. Only 63% of the population in Delhi has got one shot. This is the state of affairs, Dr. Ravi Malik. Would this be a good time to then open up? Or let me rephrase that. What would be an optimum level of percentage of vaccination where medical experts feel that, okay, maybe now we can allow a little bit larger gatherings?
We should have an herd immunity of at least 70%. 65 to 70% before we can say that we are reasonably. Now, herd immunity means both the doses of vaccine should be given to the patient. Single dose of vaccine has no meaning. Till we give 2 doses of vaccine to our population, and that also amounts to almost 65% accumulated with the asymptomatic infections, which I've heard. So the herd immunity needs to be to the tune of 65 to 70%, and by no standards, our herd immunity is to the tune of 65 to 70%. So we should be very clear about it, number one. Number two, I will just tell you in the bullet points. Number two, our children are vulnerable. 41% of our population is below the age of 18 years and not even a single child has been vaccinated. Not only for our sakes, but let us join hands for the sake of the life of our children. They are not vaccinated. So in case another pandemic wave comes, our children are likely to suffer more. And we should be impartial. I fully agree with my political friends that we need to be extremely impartial. Whatever may be the function, these social gatherings, may it be a political gathering, may it be a religious function belonging to any religion, we cannot change our goalpost for that matter, that look, for this function, the strategy will be this, and for this function, the strategy will be this, or our protocol will be this. And we should follow COVID appropriate behavior in letter and spirit both. And I will like to go further. Any violator who is violating the COVID appropriate behavior, he should be dealt with the iron hands. He should be dealt strictly. Why? Because he is not only risking his own life, but he is risking the life of other people and their children. So violators should also be taken with an iron fist for that matter. They should be dealt for that matter. And during that trajectory of this COVID, it is going to be very important that there should not be any social spreader event. You know, a social spreader event, Tanvi, can precipitate or escalate our second wave, or can also be an important precipitating factor for the coming up of the third wave. And we should also give gratitude to our scientists,
yes,
to our doctors,
yes,
those who have lost lives. And we should give them the gratitude. And the only way to pay them the gratitude is to restrict ourselves. It is extremely important for us to understand that we should restrain ourselves. We should restrict ourselves.
You know, Dr. Malik, unfortunately, that's not how people view it. But thank you for making that point. It's very important. The gratitude that we want to express to our medical experts and COVID warriors needs to come by us following rules and regulations and taking all precautions, not with all the other drama that happens of rolling out the red carpet, showering petals or clapping and whatnot, as we do, once in a while, and then forgetting what the basics are, because the only way to reduce your burden and show our gratitude is to follow the norms. I completely agree with you on that one. Let me also say good evening to two more panelists who are joining me right now. Mr. Sarvanan, spokesperson for DMK with me this evening. Also Uttam Kumar Bose, ex-CEO Sahara Airlines, joining me this evening as well. Multiple aspects that I want to cover. To you, Sarvanan, first, because there's a big conversation right now about how our governments prepared to enforce the SOPs this festival season. Even in Tamil Nadu, there is this big debate going on about allowing temples to open to all devotees in the festival season. How is your government tackling this?
Yeah, see, that's what all the standard operating procedures are all in place, and the temples are closed. Irrespective, this order is religion neutral. All the temples belonging to any faith is closed on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, because we don't want anybody congregating inside a closed space. So this is the the first thing that this is going on, and the BJP, as usual, is trying to play politics in the state of Tamil Nadu and says that we have deliberately doing this. This is done as per the letter, circular issued by the Health Ministry on August 4th. It says, until Durga Puja, please ensure that there is no congregation. So let us not, all the panelists were unanimous in stating that this should not be politicized and this should not be just mulched on any one particular religion alone. But in the state of Tamil Nadu, the BJP plays a different tune. However, we have made it very, very clear that all these things, and we have also made one more statement that as the situation improves, we want to ease everything out, and from 1st November, the government has announced that the schools should start from 1st standard to 8th standard. From 9th to 12th, it's going on. So 1st standard to 9th standard, the 8th standard, it should start from November 1st. This is one we have made. So as the situation improves, definitely we will ease those restrictions and ensure that everybody, there is some semblance of normalcy. And apart from that, the Tamil Nadu government is doing a spectacular job in its vaccination drive. We are conducting every weekend. We are having a mega vaccination drive that ensures almost in that mega vaccination drive alone 20 lakh people, every minimum 20 lakh people are vaccinated. So this is how we are planning to move forward. I think until the experts point out that the vaccination is sufficient, we should not step out of our guard, and that is what the Tamil Nadu government is doing.
But outside of the weekends where the temples are shut, is the government really cracking down on the crowd, Sarvanan? We've seen extremely scary visuals coming from across the country,
Yes.
and a very helpless response from the authorities who say, well, this is very difficult to now control.
Yeah, see, it is happening, but wherever we can enforce, see, there is no permission that is granted for events, which there are more than 100 people or 50 people, depending on the area. The local police are not giving any permissions, and the programs which have already been given permission, all of them have been cancelled, taking into this very sensitive situation we are in now. Then of course it is also incumbent on the people to ensure that they follow COVID appropriate behavior. As rightly pointed out by everybody, we should not forget the sacrifices of our health workers, the doctors. So
Okay.
it is also in their hands.
We have to wait and watch,
Government
because
is
and I want to tell you this as well, as I remind our viewers. Latest study shows that in 3 big cities, the infection rate, the R0 value has already crossed 1, which shows that the infection has begun to spread faster now. And as we get into a bigger and bigger festival mood, this is going to be something to watch out for. So Delhi is almost there, but Bengaluru and Mumbai and Kolkata, the R0 factor is already above 1, and Delhi is almost there at 0.95. Other cities need to watch out as well. One big conversation that's also happening is around the new airlines guidelines. Let me say good evening to Mr. Uttam Kumar Bose. Mr. Bose, there is much concern about sitting in a flight, a closed flight, during the times of a pandemic with 100% capacity. Now, would you be able to shed light as to whether these, airports and even the planes are well equipped to ensure that the air is circulated properly, that this, extent of infection is lower? Or is it just like any other place where in a crowd, it's a big risk? Mr. Bose, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but there is no video in my book.
Okay, I can hear you as well. My question to you, Mr. Bose, is that, there are several reports that indicate that most of the modern planes now are well equipped to filter out the air, to purify the air, even when in the air, when it's, when the flight is on. There are a lot of concerns people have about 100% capacity of a flight and whether they should be taking these flights, whether they are safe or not. To your mind, can the airline authorities ensure that SOPs are followed and enforced at airports and in flights?
See, as far as we are concerned, as in our country, we are doing that in all the airports and all the airlines are maintaining it. But the problem happens when the flight goes international and internationally when people start coming. And for that, there will be on country to country basis, there will be COVID protocol maintained, that what they have to do, what all clarification they have to bring in, and what they have to do when they land in India. That is the major concern. So it will depend on country to country. So that should not be a problem as far as going from here is concerned.
Okay, you say so going
Every
via air
country-
shouldn't be such a big concern. Yes, go ahead, please. Sorry.
No, it won't be a concern. And because we are all following the airlines are following the norms here in the country. But when people come from outside, there will be country to country protocol maintenance, then there will be guideline issued that what they have to do. And similar thing, those countries will have to follow.
All right,
So I
very
don't
quickly,
think
let me also get in Dr. Ravi Malik's view on it. Dr. Malik, because there's a big debate going on whether it's safe to have people with RT-PCR tests also travel, or should it be just double vaccinated? Should we enter a flight which is 100% full?
Look, the issue is right now we are not in a condition that we can afford 100% full flight right now, because as I already pointed out, that our herd immunity is insufficient. So it is very important. And my critical and momentous concern is that vaccination rate is also decreasing. Probably people, I don't know, they are on the high adrenaline drive that probably this viral illness has gone. But I must warn that this illness can haunt us in future. So it is very important for us to understand that we should vaccinate anybody who is left for the vaccination. He should get the vaccination done. And moreover, now the vaccine has also been approved for children, and shortly it will be available for children. Covaxin will be available. So we should get our children also vaccinated. And any kind of blatant, disregard for any COVID behavior cannot be tolerated. And we must ask certain questions. Are we ready to take another blow on our economy? Are we prepared as far as our health infrastructure is concerned? Why we should be confident?
Dr. Malik, the point there is, while everybody believes we need to take precautions, everybody believes that we've gone through a tough time, we don't want to go back to it. They also don't, none of us, including me, often we miss the larger picture. In our heads, we are wearing a mask, we are being safe, we are protecting our child, we have been vaccinated, and so everything else will be all right. But which is why it is important for us to show you these visuals and show you statistics of vaccination, where only a quarter of this country has been fully vaccinated, to tell you that the infection rate is now going above 1, which is back into the danger territory. To tell you that you amongst those hundreds may be vaccinated, but somewhere there may not be. Someone there may be carrying infection, and you can still get it, even after getting 2 shots of the vaccine. Think about it as you move around this festival season. Thank you for joining us.